to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to a discussion where Mike Richards from the Unholy Trinity Podcast will be joining me to discuss what's going on behind the scenes with Lucas Digne and his potential and increasingly impending departure, it seems, from Everton in January. Obviously, Lucas Digne's been linked with a move away. A few teams have been bandied around: Chelsea, Juventus, Paris, even Newcastle, I think, has been thrown in there here and there. I don't know who hasn't been linked to Newcastle, though, this upcoming window. But anyway, I'm joined by Mike. Mike, what's your take on Lucas Digne's potential departure?
It's disappointing, really, isn't it? On the surface, you're looking at it and thinking, we can do without this. Our squad is small as it is. He's one of our better players, one of our senior players. A player that you certainly want starting, as opposed to being nowhere near the squad because of an issue he's got with the manager and the manager's got with him. Ideally, players should be able to voice their concerns and opinions to any manager. I'm sure, this won't be the first time it's happened at Everton. It'll be the first time it's happened, I'm sure, with Benitez. So it's got to have been dealt with better for me. Because we find ourselves now in a situation where the replacement is coming in from Dan O'Keefe and Michaelenko coming in. All seems to be done. 22 years of age. The profile looks good in terms of what we're going to be getting. But then that tells you if we can go and afford to spend, say, 80 million quid on a left back, then it means that Lucas Digne's going to be on his way. We know from what we've been told that he is being touted to other clubs. The club are open to selling them in January, and it's a shame, for things to end this way. On the face of it, you can say, well, you're replacing a left back in his late 20s with a left back in his early 20s, younger player. We're probably going to make a profit, you'd argue, on the Lucas Digne deal. That'll more than pay for this kid who's coming in. So it looks all rosy, but you can't just throw this kid in for me. It's all well and good saying, ideal profile, 22, all the attributes to be a decent left back in the Premier League. But the transition from the Ukraine to Premier League football is massive. So you want to try and ease him in. So ideally, you'd have Lucas Digne there for the rest of the season and do it that way. But by all accounts, he seems to be on his way. And it's going to be a sad ending, really, for a player who's come in and done a really, really solid job after trying to replace the best left back and my favourite Everton player of all time, Leighton Baines.
Yeah, I think Lucas Digne's been very well liked by the supporters as well over his time here. I think it's turned sour recently, but it's a shame because he has been one of the more popular members of the squad, and he really seems to get on well with the fans himself. He seems to really like being at the club. It seems to be a shame to, that sort of affinity to have broken, it seems.
It does. It does. He certainly does seem to be a likeable character, like you say. The fans certainly took to him. Any player who gets his own song, you're always doing well. And I think as well, a lot of people who have maybe turned on Lucas Digne this season, I think the argument that he can't defend is just null and void for me, because if you look at his stats, he's right up there. He's right up there, from a defensive point of view. So he's been asked to do a different job, and just because he's not providing assists or getting the odd goal, it doesn't mean that he's not being effective in this particular system. Because for me, he is. We're not sitting there saying he's the world's greatest defensive left back, but he does a good job, and he's done a good job. And the arguments of basically that he can't defend it is totally wrong. It's not his natural game. He's a modern day fullback, isn't he? He's a wing back. He likes to get forward. He's being impinged by the Benitez system, which is where the fallout seems to have come from. But he can defend, and we are going to lose, for me, one of our best technical players. And like you say, it's such a shame it's going to end in this particular manner. You'd hope that the day that Lucas Digne left would be a day a bit like a Idrissa Gana Gueye, provided really, really good service, maybe moved on and got maybe an even bigger move. And he left with all our our best wishes, but unfortunately, it's going to be a slightly sour end of things.
We should be getting used to it. Benitez, he's not afraid to ruffle the feathers, is he?
He's a stubborn man, isn't he? He appears to be very, very stubborn in his approach. And, some will argue, well, he's the manager, he's in charge, and his word is final. But I prefer, managers need to be open to discussion and conversation. And, when you've got senior players, Lucas Digne being one of them, you've got to expect these senior players to come and speak to you, and if they're not satisfied with things, you've got to discuss it. But he seems to be very much a character that is, I'm in charge and what I say goes. And I think with the removal of Marcel Brands, with Moshiri publicly backing the manager, with him saying he's in charge of transfers as well, he's very much got a lot of power at the club now, and he's certainly not backwards and coming forwards when it comes to displaying how much power he's got. And it's obviously he's what he's trying to probably show to the rest of the team is that he's maybe not a man to be crossed. But me personally, I think we need a slightly softer approach. You've got to be open to discussion from senior players.
We don't really want this sort of blood, like you mentioned before, to start festering in the dressing room. And I feel like, like you say, it can set the precedent that he's not to be messed with, but it can also set a precedent of, sort of dissent towards the manager. I think if you upset a popular player, and I mean, Lucas Digne hasn't played well this season compared to previous seasons, but he's still a likeable person and a likeable professional.
And in the squad,
there is a balance to be found, I think.
100%. And in the squad, he's going to have a lot of friends in the squad, and like you say, other players see that. It can then cause some kind of rebellion. Effectively, other players can then start kicking off and thinking, well, this isn't for me. I haven't come to this club to be dealt with in this particular way. And it can cause problems because, management style, it varies from manager to manager. And you're not going to always, please every player in the squad with your style of management. But this style of management certainly will cause more issues than it solves by, looking from the outside looking in my opinion, without being there at Finch Farm and seeing how he goes about his business on a daily basis. We can't truly say, but, if the reports are to be believed, they're arguing with each other in Spanish on the training ground, and it's not a good look. It's certainly not a good thing to read either as an Evertonian. But the manager seems to have won this particular battle, but sets a precedent for other players, and other players might not like his way of managing.
But obviously, like you say, it's what's done is done now, and Lucas Digne looks likely to move on. You touched a little bit before on Michalenko coming in. How much do you know about Michalenko? Are we getting a good sign?
Very little. I mean, I think the general consensus is that, from his attributes are, I think he started at centre half. So he's sort of 5'11", 5'12". He's a decent height. He got moved to left back. A lot of people are saying he has been touted to many, many big clubs, and he was always going to make a big move. So he's certainly well thought of, but also the belief is that he's going to need time to settle. And that's sort of my arguments with players when they are coming from, a much weaker league in terms of the Ukrainian league. You can't just be lashed in the Premier League and be expected to uproot any kind of trees. So I wouldn't be surprised, if that's the case, that Ben Godfrey will continue at left back and we see this kid gradually introduced. I'd hope that would be the way we go about it. Whether the manager sees it that way, it should be, shouldn't it? But whether the manager feels that we've got the luxury to do that, I don't know. But with the emergence maybe of Jared Brantwaite, you've got another centre half who can slot in there alongside Michael Keane. And then Godfrey is then free to sort of play left back for the foreseeable. But yeah, no, very, very little. I think someone was saying that he played well against Cristiano Ronaldo for Ukraine a year or two ago, so he marshalled in pretty well. But obviously, you can't just go off one game. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to the Premier League. But I don't expect big things this season. I think obviously get a pre-season under his belt after 6 months in the country and adapting to the lifestyle, and we'll see more of him when we go into next season for sure.
Hopefully that's how it pans out. We've just got to hope that we know what we're doing this time, because too often we haven't. But like you say, Lucas Digne going out, and we might turn a bit of a profit in swapping one of those players for another. Some more of the Digne money might also go towards the potential signing of Nathan Patterson. Obviously, I think we chased from Rangers and in the summer, and we didn't end up getting him then. But it's now looking like we're going back in for him again in January.
Yeah, I mean, the right back berth has been an issue for a few years, and this is no say. I love Seamus Coleman. We all know he's been a fantastic servant. It's not his fault he's having to play week in, week out. He should have been replaced sort of two or 3 years ago. And Patterson fits the bill in terms of his age. Again, it's the right age, isn't it? The price of it, if we're talking 9 million, 10 million, it's not a massive outlay in terms of modern football. We were certainly heavily linked with him in the summer, and we just couldn't get it done because they wanted a bit more than we wanted to pay. But yeah, it seems to be the main aims of this transfer window coming up in January seems to be sorting out obviously the impending departure of Lucas Digne, and also getting a right back in to take over the reins from Seamus Coleman. Not before time. But this kid's exciting. He plays. From what I've seen, I've always enjoyed watching him. As I say, right profile for what we're looking for, and that's what we should be doing. These kind of signings are exactly what we should be doing. But make no mistake, Marcel Brands is involved in both of these deals before anyone suspects it's open. He says it's not. Marcel Brands agreed the deal with obviously Mikalenko and Patterson. He's been involved in both, so it's sort of a bit of a goodbye present from Marcel Brands. But the manager has signed them off, so it's good that we've got potentially two players of a decent age who, if we look, say, 2 or 3 years down the line, we should be, if we're looking to sell players, as all sides do, you will make a profit on both, potentially, if the signings go relatively well. And that's what we should be doing, and what we should have been doing for the last sort of 4 or 5 years and haven't. So from that point of view, it's really positive in terms of making that step.
Is it not ironic that this was probably the type of vision Marcel Brands supposed to have? And it's happening now he's gone.
Of course, yeah. As I say, these are definitely to do with him and players that he's identified and run by the manager. And I just think with Marcel Brands, I think the derby was the final straw. He was the one who was. I know other people were getting abuse in the director's box, but he was the one who obviously stopped and had a bit of an altercation, and he probably just thought, I've had enough of this now. I'm not paid enough to deal with this. And he was hamstrung, I think, in terms of not being allowed to do the job that he was paid to do. It's certainly the profile of a director of football that he knew certainly wasn't the profile that was on show at Everton. So yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how football works? But I think Marcel Brands was certainly trusted to do his job and to identify players with his scouting network, and these two players seem to be from that. So we'll be sitting there obviously wondering, why these kind of moves didn't happen earlier. But I think that's where the interference from other board members and other people at the club come in, and we've allowed decisions to be made which are to the detriment of the long term future, if you like, of the club, and that's what's got to change. But that's obviously a conversation for another time.
Well, hopefully this is an example of this potentially starting to change this window with 2 younger signings that look like they're going to happen. If let's say those 2 get over the line, can you see any other transfer business happening in or out this window?
There's been a bit of talk, hasn't there, already, about the likes of Rondon being linked to a move into Turkey, I think it is. Delph was also mentioned again about potentially to being moved on going into the last 6 months of his deal. So potentially, it all depends what we can ship out. There is some kind of leeway there because obviously we've got rid of James Rodriguez since the last window closed. The Moise Kean deal was done a little bit too late. so we couldn't get anyone else in. So there's that money as well. Money was brought in from Vlasic, so there's a little bit of a pot there when obviously you move to West Ham. So there's a little bit of flexibility, but I wouldn't expect, if we're going to be paying out for these two and Lucas Digne's going to be on his way, that pretty much sort of pays the first instalment for both of them with the Lucas Digne transfer. So I wouldn't be looking maybe too much past these two. But it doesn't mean that we don't need potentially a couple more bodies, because we've seen how thin on the ground we are. Chelsea being a prime example, but prior to obviously COVID taking off again, injuries over the course of this season have certainly derailed things and have shown up how short we are in terms of squad depth. So you'd like to see maybe one or two more. I just know who we can move out, but say Rondon, maybe Iwobi, maybe linked to Newcastle, like you said, a heavy other player in the world. Who knows? There could be a couple of more outgoings besides Lucas Digne.
Yeah, I think we'd be wise. I don't know why we haven't done it for a long time. I don't think we've done it since Mashiri's first full season when Koeman was first here. When have we last signed a player on loan getting a Valencia?
Possibly was. Well, having a little look.
Robin Olsen last year, I think that was it.
But that was, I always see sort of like year-long loans as different to sort of like a loan in January. If you had like a 6-month loan deal, something like that. It was probably, Josh King sort of was, but wasn't. It was a permanent deal, but had all the feeling of a loan deal, didn't it, really? But yeah, you don't really see it. And what the media are reporting at the moment is that because of COVID, because of the uncertainty around COVID, a lot of sides are reluctant to maybe do loan deals and let fringe players go, because if they get, say, any kind of sort of outbreak, which is obviously Everton are kind of seeing at this moment in time, you're having to call on those players to come into the squad if you're made to play a game, which we've seen obviously certain sides like Chelsea were made to play, obviously Leeds against Arsenal the other day. So they're calling upon these fringe players to actually play, either be in a match day squad or actually start a game. So I just don't know whether we're going to see many, many loan deals because of that particular reason.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But for now, let's hopefully see if, maybe let's look at the positives and maybe let's see if we are getting the squad age down. Let's see if we can turn a profit. They are positives. I mean, there's not many in this situation, but at least there are some to take away from it. I mean, I think Lucas Digne will be a big loss to the club. There'll be no doubt about that, but we obviously need to try and move forward if this proves to be the case, and it's looking pretty inevitable at this stage, doesn't it?
I think it is, yeah. It's just about waiting now to see where he actually goes. He won't have any problem in finding a club. Whether they try and maybe try and push a loan, which I can't see us going for. Just 6-month loan with a view to a permanent, but we'll be keen to recoup a decent amount of money for him. And we've been linked to some decent clubs. I think Juventus are knocking around as well to see if you can get him across the line. Paris Saint-Germain are being mentioned, Leicester have also been mentioned. So we'll have plenty of suitors, and if a deal can be agreed, then Lucas Digne, I'm sure, will be on his way. Yeah,
well, we'll wait and see what happens. Anyway, we've got in just over it's a week and a half now to the transfer window open. So, silly season will soon be very much up and running. Until then, guys, let us know your opinions on the potential departure of Digne and the potential incoming of other players. Drop us a comment, give this video a like, and subscribe for more content. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching on the Toffee Blues.